Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 Concert Artists Guild Lewis and Susan Meisel competition. My name is Jeffrey John Davies. I'm the founder of the Violin Channel, and it's my absolute pleasure to be invited this afternoon to host this impressive event. Welcome to audiences, both in person and on the live stream. We're coming to you live this afternoon here at the Manhattan School of Music. A special thanks to the Manhattan School of Music team, the CAG volunteers and supporters, and of course, Lewis and Susan Meisel, the sponsors of the CAG annual competition. I'd like to introduce today's jury. Michelle Can, Grammy Award-winning pianist. David Frost, Grammy Award-winning record producer. Adrian Fuchs, Director of Festivals and Special Projects at Carnegie Hall. Jeremy Ney, Head of Music and Performance at the Frick Collection. Eric Lunsford Norton, Vice President of Artistic Planning at the New Jersey Symphony. Orly Shaham, internationally renowned pianist. Alistair Tate, Chief Executive and Artistic Director of Young Classical Artists Trust. Tim Ma, COO and Director of Artist Strategy at CAG. And Tanya Bannister, President of CAG. And yeah, round of applause. Welcome. And as you've heard, today's winner, or winners, plural, will join the esteemed roster of the Concert Artists Guild. Now, the CAG is a non-profit that provides comprehensive management and professional development for emerging young classical artists here in the United States. And one of today's 7 finalists will also be invited to join the management roster of YCAT, the Young Classical Artists Trust in London, for European management representation. So today we're going to hear 7 young finalists over 2 sessions, and this actually marks the culmination of an extensive selection process. The jury will be considering the scope of each finalist's application and artistic profile. So what we're hearing today is the culmination of a number of rounds of performances, auditions, and interviews in order to come to the winners today. At the end of today, at the second presentation, I'll also be hosting a panel discussion with the 7 young finalists today. So anyone here in the audience, if you have a burning question for any of the finalists, you can use the QR code on the back of your program to submit your question for later on. So anything comes to mind, just send it through. Now, one thing to note, our finalist number 4 has unfortunately had to withdraw, violist Imad Zolgolferiar due to a scheduling conflict. Okay, so ready to begin? Today's first finalist is 27-year-old pianist Anthony Ratinov from the United States. He's currently pursuing an artist diploma at the Juilliard School here in New York, having previously attended Yale for, interestingly, both piano and chemical engineering.
I love music. It means the world to me, and it always has. Hello, my name is Anthony Ratinov. I'm a pianist, collaborator, communicator, expert iPad page turner. And most importantly, I'm someone who loves classical music and wants to share the joy it brings me with others. I started piano at the age of 4 with my grandmother, who not only taught me how to play, but how to wholeheartedly embrace and love music. Even when I drifted away to explore other interests, like my time studying chemical engineering and working in a lab, I found myself drawn back to music stronger than ever before. Music is my way of connecting with the world. In a time when so much can push us apart, I embrace music's ability to bring us together through shared emotion, vulnerability, and storytelling. And I can't wait to share my music with all of you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Anthony Ratinov, and I'm really excited to be sharing this very special program with you all today. Something that I've been thinking a lot about recently is intimacy in music, specifically those moments that don't just project a world onto the listener, but actually draw the listener in and create a very special connection between the performer and the audience. One composer whose music really explores intimacy is Frédéric Chopin. And today's impromptu and waltz, they are both quite energetic at first, but then they shift into totally unexpected and deeply personal worlds, which is very moving. Inside the Chopin sandwich are two pieces written and premiered in New York City exactly 60 years apart. Berrioz's Wasserklavier from 1965, a haunting piece that pulls you into this hypnotic sound world, and the world premiere of Lila Moretsky's Aegon, which is a piece that I commissioned for this specific program after a long, very existential conversation we had about music and life. And it centers around this expressive melody which continually develops and evolves while all sorts of textures and chords react to it. And I sincerely hope that today's program can create a space for reflection and for all sorts of thoughts and emotions. And I'm really excited to share this music with you all. Thank you.
So I guess the question we're all, all wanting to know, is someone with a chemical engineering degree from Yale, how you've made this decision now to, pursue your career as a professional pianist.
Yes, it was definitely a big change. This happened during the pandemic when I kind of had a crisis, as many other people did. And I mean, I've been playing piano my whole life, and it's not like I just started practicing in 2020. I've been, performing a lot before then. But I think in 2020, I kind of built up the courage to, to really follow something when kind of the whole world stopped and stability wasn't really a notion for any career, for a bit at least. And I thought, what better way to catch up and practice than during lockdown? And I was very lucky to be locked down with my parents with a grand piano. So and I mean, it wasn't an easy, immediate decision. I, of course, waited, saw how things developed over a few years, and I'm really at the point of no return, I hope, and I'm just extremely happy.
Wonderful. Now, in your program, we heard a world premiere by Lila Meretsky, which she's here today, is she not?
Is she here?
Stand up.
Yes.
Hi. Bravo. So tell us about the process, because I understand you commissioned the work.
Yes, so Lila has been a good friend of mine for quite some time, and I've always wanted to commission a work from Lila, and I sort of used this as the perfect opportunity. And Lila, I'm so grateful to you for writing this piece, especially on such a time crunch. She agreed to it, of course. I didn't, it wasn't crazy pressure, but I sort of had this idea for what was kind of captivating me at the moment. As I mentioned, it was intimacy. It was those sort of spaces that kind of emerge. They're either set up or they unexpectedly just happen, and it just kind of pulls you in. And Lila had a few pieces that, very much had this sentiment. And so I thought, might as well use this as an incentive for both of us to start a collaboration, which is going to continue beyond this, very short round. So I'm really excited for more pieces in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's time to welcome our second finalist today, pianist Kayden Kelly. Now, he's an 18-year-old pianist from Santa Fe in New Mexico. He's just finished up his pre-college at the Colburn School in Los Angeles and will begin his undergraduate studies in the fall of this year. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kayden Kelly, 18-year-old aspiring classical pianist from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and a recent graduate from the Colburn Music Academy in Los Angeles. Music for me is a powerful language that transcends barriers and connects cultures. My mission is to explore the depths of this language, grow as far as this journey can take me, and also to honor everyone that has supported me, especially those from my Afro-Caribbean heritage. I grew up in a vibrant city with a lot of outreach programs. Early support from the Sphinx organization inspired me to reach even higher. Some of my favorite performances have been intimate salon concerts where I share the stories behind the music I play. I also especially love performing for schools when I travel, and I've been on several kids' radio stations. I believe every young person can connect deeply with classical music if given the right introduction. One day soon, I hope to perform a piano concerto I wrote myself. In fact, that's what you're listening to right now. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, as you heard, my name is Kayden Kelly. I'll be playing 3 pieces today. So the first piece I'm going to be playing, all 3 are contrasting in their own way. The first piece I'm playing is one of Liszt's Transcendental Etudes. It's called Mazeppa, and that's actually the name of the main character of the story. So the reason why I kind of like this piece is because it's really representative of the story it tells. And I think that the best music, tells life's story, right? So the story goes in which, well, it's a very romantic story since it was written in the romantic period, but essentially Mazepa falls in love with the wrong woman, and he's actually sentenced to die from a king. So it's very dramatic. You can hear the elements of the story in the beginning. There's like shock, and then you can hear the running as he's running away. In the middle, there's this lyrical section where he's thinking about his love, and so he's kind of distracted, very beautiful. But then slowly, in the left hand, this like anxiety starts to build. Upon which, eventually, his horse dies, he falls, and he thinks he's dead, but actually, this traveling group of nomads eventually saves him. So, yeah. The other two pieces, then I'll introduce right after this one. So, thank you. That was Mazeppa by Liszt. The next piece I'll play, and actually I'll play the next piece and the last piece together. This one, while that one is quite fiery, this one's a bit more introspective. So this is Reflections on the Water by Debussy. And in this piece, there is an emphasis on nature and the aspects of it. So, for example, it's interesting because you can hear those in the music. For example, the glistening pebble in the pond, or the swaying of the leaves in the wind, or the chirping of birds in the morning. It's interesting because Debussy and the Impressionist period, they didn't exemplify so much of the same aspects of the Romantic period, where they were, looking for an emotional story that kept moving and kept undulating, but rather they really looked at the things that had previously, or maybe perhaps that they felt had been overlooked. So just the way a mountain changes over the course of 24 hours, that kind of timing is what is brought to this type of music. And then the last piece I'll play is a piece by New York City composer Lieberman. So Gargoyles, his last move, is a fantastic, explosive piece that has a lot of rhythmical elements to it. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Bravo, wonderful. So as this year's youngest finalist at only 18, tell us, why is now the time for you to be working with Concert Artists Guild?
Well, I guess, I guess age is relative, because, I don't know, it's interesting because I feel like, man, I've been around here, been 18 years on this planet already, but I understand how that might change. So really, I'm looking forward to what's in the present, what's in front of me. And, I've been gathering my repertoire, kind of trying to learn all different types of styles, to enhance my playing. I'm now, trying to look what's behind the music, I guess that's something that maybe 3-4 years ago I didn't do as much of, but now I'm trying to look behind the music, behind everything. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So tell us all, having just finished high school a few weeks ago, what are your plans now?
Well, I guess that is something of a large decision, as what I will do in the future, where I'll go, has a profound impact on how I will turn out.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I'm very grateful that what's happened before me has prepared me. But I guess there's some pianists that I admire that have gone, and done music, right? And then some academics to try to kind of enhance their understanding of the musical ability, right? Since music is not so contained, I feel like so many other aspects of life, like philosophy, all these other things, play a big role into how it's structured. And I've seen pianists who have solely focused on music, lasered in, because that's, what we're passionate about. And so I think I'll make a decision about that in the next few days.
Few days, okay. We will stand by and wait. So thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we will now welcome to the stage the third finalist, the Cerus Saxophone Quartet. So based out of the University of Michigan, the ensemble were recently awarded the gold medal in the wind division of the 2025 Fish-Off competition, very prestigious here in the United States. So we'll be hearing on soprano sax, Roberto Campa, Laura Ramsey on alto, Kyle Cato on the tenor, and Samuel Deschon on the baritone.
The myth of Cerus the Bull is a story of transformation, turning chaos into beauty and noise into song. We chose this name because it's our purpose, to reveal the saxophone's hidden grace.
Hi, we're the Cerus Quartet.
We're four best friends whose journey began right here 3 years ago at the University of Michigan.
Our central mission is to show the world what the saxophone is capable of, and to place it at the heart of 21st century classical music. Whether we're in the concert hall,
Impacting students in the classroom and connecting with our audience on social media.
or bringing music to unexpected places like the farmer's market,
we love programming that's accessible, meaningful, and showcases the endless potential of the saxophone.
allowing audiences to see themselves in the works that we perform.
We're also passionate about expanding the repertoire and pushing the limits of what the saxophone can do, both through commissioning bold, diverse composers and creating transcriptions of classic, beautiful works.
This is all possible because we're all so close. And our friendship really informs all of our musical philosophies.
You can always find us traveling somewhere new and exciting, watching horror movies, or playing late-night spades games.
Our bond lets us take risks, to play with vulnerability, turning 4 voices into 1.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. We are the Cerus Quartet. My name is Roberto Campa. I'm joined on stage with my best friends, Kyle on tenor, Sam on bari, and Laura on alto saxophone. We're so happy to have our debut New York City performance, and we're so lucky to be able to share the stage with so many incredibly talented artists today, so we're really grateful. That first piece you just heard was Pedro Iturralde's Pequeña Charda, or Little Dance. And it's a really exciting piece, and it's always so much fun to incorporate some movement and some theatrics in our performances. But now I think we ended up on the correct horns, but for our next piece, Edvard Grieg's Holberg Suite, we're doing the first two movements, the prelude and the saraband. Originally for piano and then adapted for string orchestra. We think it translates beautifully on the instrument, and we'd love to program it to show this more expressive lyrical side to the saxophone. So please enjoy.
you so much. Our final piece for y'all tonight is the first movement from Carolyn Schubring's first ever saxophone quartet, Ambivert, entitled Extrovert. This piece means so much to our group because it was our first ever commission that we did in our first year together. And in that first year together, we had the privilege to overlap with Carolyn at her time at the University of Michigan, where we're from, to make this collaboration happen. Since receiving the piece in about early 2023, we've been able to play it all across the country in all kinds of different locations, such as gymnasiums full of hundreds of little elementary schoolers, wineries in Washington State, and places like here today. So I think we can officially say we've played this coast to coast today. You'll hear two main sound worlds in this movement, starting off with a flashy, klezmer-like extroverted style in the beginning, transitioning into a jazz fusion groove to finish it out. Thank you so much again for being here today. Thank you to CAG for having us. We're truly so happy to be able to play our music for y'all.
all of you. Bravo to the Cerus Quartet. One more round of applause. So tell us a little, how did you guys all form as a foursome?
Sure. Yeah, we formed 3 years ago at the University of Michigan. Actually, Sam, Kyle, and I have been playing together for 5 years, and then Roberto jumped in as our soprano player 3 years ago. So we were all at the University of Michigan, and it was kind of chance. Our professor put us together, and it was one of the luckiest things that's ever happened to me.
Wonderful. So maybe for those that are not so familiar with the formation, is there significant repertoire for saxophones written?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of music written for saxophone quartet, starting even from the creation of the instrument. In the late Romantic period, we have composers such as Ratinov, a lot of French music for the saxophone quartet. And the beautiful thing about the sax quartet as well is that we love to steal music from other instruments. So we play, as much non-saxophone music as we do saxophone music. The instruments are so versatile, and we love playing string quartet music, piano music. The possibilities are endless. So.
I do have to say, as a string player, that Holberg suite, we're all very familiar. Every string player is very familiar with it. We played it every year in string ensemble at high school. So yes, it's a deja vu. It's great. Okay, so also, now we want to hear a little about, what your plans are and your ambitions are after you graduate from the University of Michigan.
I can touch a little bit. So one of the things that we're really looking forward to doing is continuing to pave out our pathway as a nonprofit ensemble. So everything we're doing now, we're lucky enough to all be together at the University of Michigan for at least one more year, and we have been, lucky to stay together. But we know that there's going to be a time when we leave the nest, so to say. So we are, really working on setting a foundation of rehearsal etiquette, professionalism, all these things that will go into the second we leave the same place, knowing exactly what we need to do to be, be a functioning ensemble. So we're not, putting this stuff on the back burner. We're really getting into a lot of the business and a lot of the, all of the kind of administration things that are required into a full-time ensemble. So that's kind of behind the scenes. I don't know.
I think some things coming up in the near future are, the biggest thing I think are two educational outreach tours. We have one in the works for Southern California, where Sam and Kyle are from, so they're putting that one together. And we also have one coming up in September around the South Bend, Indiana area, so not too far from where we live right now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry?
I had a quick question for the quartet.
Oh, if you, okay, so you can submit your questions via the QR code on your program there, and we have a panel at the end. So.
They played beautifully, so I just wanted to ask about it.
Sure. Okay, so as I said earlier, unfortunately, our fourth finalist, Imad Zulfagari, has had to withdraw from today's competition due to a schedule conflict, so he won't be performing today. So that now concludes our first session. So thank you to all the audience here at the Manhattan School of Music and those listening online. And so as I just said, anyone who has a question for any of the 7 finalists, you could submit your question on the QR code on the front of your program though, here, for those here in the hall, and we'll be hosting a panel discussion with them as a little later in the evening as the jury are adjudicating. So it's now time for our dinner break, and for the second session, the doors will open at 6 p.m. with the second session to begin at 6:30. So enjoy your break, everyone. Thank you. Hello, and welcome back to the evening session of the 2025 Concert Artists Guild Louis and Susan Meisel competition. I'm Jeffrey Davies, the founder and CEO of the Violin Channel, and it's my honor to be invited to be the host here this evening for you guys. So a special welcome to everybody here in the audience, as well as our online audience. We're coming live to you from the Manhattan School of Music here in New York. So special thanks to the Manhattan School team, to the CAG volunteers and supporters, and of course, Louis and Susan Meisel, the sponsors of this, the CAG's annual competition. So let me introduce the jury. How about a round of applause each for each of them this time? Michelle Can, the Grammy Award-winning pianist. David Frost, Grammy Award-winning record producer. Adrian Fuchs, Director of Festivals and Special Projects at Carnegie Hall. Jeremy Ney, Head of Music and Performance at the Frick Collection. Erin Lunsford Norton, Vice President of Artistic Planning at the New Jersey Symphony. Orly Shaham, internationally renowned pianist. Alistair Tate, Chief Executive and Artistic Director of the Young Classical Artists Trust in London. Tim Ma, Chief Operations Officer and Director of Artist Strategy at CAG. And Tanya Bannister, President of CAG. So, as you have heard, each of the winners, plural, this evening will join the esteemed roster of the Concert Artists Guild. And with the CAG, it's a non-profit which provides comprehensive management and professional development for emerging young artists here in the United States, as well as one of the finalists this evening will also win representation on YCAT, the Young Classical Artists Trust in London, for European management representation. So this evening, or today, there's 7 finalists over 2 sessions, this being the night session, and this marks the culmination of an extensive selection process. The jury will be considering the full scope of each finalist's application and artistic profile. So we're seeing the culmination here. Each of these artists have been put through tests already of rounds of performances, auditions, and interviews. At the end of tonight's session, while the judges are adjudicating, I'll be hosting a panel on stage here with each of the finalists. So anyone here in the audience, if you have any questions, there's a QR code on the front of your program. Submit your questions there, and we can ask them to the panel, at the end of this session. One thing that we just have to note that finalist number 4 from the previous session, Violas Imad Zolfagari, he has had to withdraw from today's final due to a conflict in scheduling. So that's why there's 7 rather than 8. So on to finalist number 5. We have 27-year-old Derek Wang. He's an American pianist. He's New York-based and holds degrees from Juilliard and from the Yale School of Music. And he's currently a Creative Enterprise Fellow at the Juilliard School. So please welcome Derek Wang.
Hey, look, for me, it all comes back to this. Okay, there's a passage in here. Und ein liebend Herz. Und ein liebend Herz erweichet, was ein liebend Herz gefreut. It's a challenge, but it's also a promise. What Beethoven is saying is what our loving hearts make sacred. Through love, we can reach, and we will. To reach inward, to reach beyond, to reach someone else as a collaborator, as a communicator, as a pianist. So that's why I'm here. I'm Derek Wang, and I'm glad you're here too. So Beethoven built that monumental conclusion to his Seventh Symphony on what I find to be a rather unlikely basis, and that is a tune that derives from his work arranging Irish folk songs. Now, in his arrangements of these songs, in that unpublished volume, there is one song which has the following refrain. It's an Irish reel, and the surprising thing is that Beethoven takes not only the tune, and of course soups it up to symphonic scale, but also the idea of whirling motion that it suggests. And also, I think, the frenzied, carnivalesque spirit of its text. If I may quote, "Away with wisdom, dull and drear, and welcome folly and adventure." Now, our next adventure takes us to the state of Kansas, where in 1966, the poet Allen Ginsberg looked out the window of his VW bus and surveyed in American heartland that at that time was sending both its men and its manufacturers to Vietnam. And speaking into his tape recorder, Allen Ginsberg created the following poem, which in 1988, Philip Glass wrote music to accompany. Now, Philip and Allen, when they were performing the piece together, both remarked that even though 22 years had passed since the writing of the poem, nevertheless, the issues that that text reflected seemed to be the exact same, changing out perhaps a few names, places, and dates. And it's been my experience as I've worked with and lived with this text that the same holds true for us today here in 2025. Wichita Vortex Sutra. Lonesome man in Kansas, but not afraid to speak my lonesomeness in a car, because not only my lonesomeness, it's ours all over America, oh tender fellows. And spoken lonesomeness is prophecy, in the moon 100 years ago, or in the middle of Kansas now. It's not the vast plains mute our mouths that fill at midnight with ecstatic language when our trembling bodies hold each other, breast to breast, on a mattress. Not the empty sky that hides the feeling from our faces, nor our skirts and trousers that conceal the body love, emanating in a glow of beloved skin, white, smooth abdomen, down to the hair between our legs. It's not a God that bore us, that forbid our being like a sunny rose, all red with naked joy between our eyes and bellies. Yes, all we do is for this frightened thing we call love, want and lack, fear that we aren't the one whose body could be beloved of all the brides of Kansas City, kissed all over by every boy of Wichita. Oh, but how many in their solitude weep aloud like me on the bridge bridge over Republican River, almost in tears to know how to speak the right language. On the frosty Prod Road, uphill, between highway embankments, I search for the language that is also yours. Almost all our language has been taxed by war. Radio antennae, high-tension wires ranging from Junction City across the plains, highway cloverleaf sunk in a vast meadow, lanes curving past Abilene to Denver, filled with old heroes of love, to Wichita, where McClure's mind burst into animal beauty, drunk, getting laid in a car in a neon-misted street. 15 years ago, to Independence, where the old man still alive, who loosed the bomb that slaved all human consciousness and made the body universe a place of fear. Now, speeding along the empty plain, no giant demon machine visible on the horizon, but tiny human trees and wooden houses at the sky's edge. I claim my birthright. Reborn forever as long as man in Kansas or other universe. Joy. Reborn after the vast sadness of the war gods. A lone man, talking to myself. No house in the brown vastness to hear. Imagining the throng of selves that makes this nation one body of prophecy, languaged by declaration as pursuit of happiness. I call all powers of imagination to my side in this auto to make prophecy. All lords of human kingdoms to come. Shambhu Bharti Baba, naked, covered with ash. Kaki Baba, fat belly, mad with the dogs. Devorahava Baba, who moans, oh, how wounded, how wounded. Sitaram Onkar Das Thakur, who commands, give up your desire. Satyananda, who raises 2 thumbs in tranquility. Kali Pada Guharoy, whose yoga drops before the void. Shivananda, who touches the breast and says, Om. Srimata Krishnaji of Brindaban, who says, take for your guru William Blake, the invisible father of English visions. Sri Ramakrishna, master of ecstasy, eyes half closed, who only cries for his mother. Chaitanya, arms upraised, singing and dancing his own praise. Merciful Shango, judging our bodies. Durgama, covered in blood, destroyer of battlefield illusions. Million-faced Tathagata, gone past suffering. Preserver, Hare Krishna, returning in the age of pain. Sacred Heart, my Christ acceptable. Allah, the compassionate one. Yahweh, righteous one. All knowledge princes of earth man, all ancient seraphim of heavenly desire, devas, yogis, and holy men, I chant to come to my lone presence into this vortex named Kansas. I lift my voice aloud. Make mantra of American speech now. I hear nation weep. Let Congress legislate its own delight. Let the president execute his own desire. This act, done by my own voice, published to my own senses, blissfully received by my own form, approved with pleasure by my sensations, manifestation of my very thought accomplished in my own imagination, all realms within my consciousness fulfilled. 60 miles from Wichita, near El Dorado, the Golden One. In chill earthly mist, houseless brown farmland plains rolling heavenward in every direction. One midwinter afternoon, Sunday, called the Day of the Lord. Pure spring water gathered in one tower where Florence is set on a hill. Stop for tea and gas.
Wow. So tell us, in a situation like this, when just 15 minutes worth of programming, how do you approach programming, a performance like this when you have a time restraint of only, 15 minutes to showcase everything that you do?
Of course, constraints become a meaningful source of artistic productivity all the time. And here, with my sort of binocular focus on these two works, I kind of enjoyed the A-B juxtaposition, something that is so at the heart of the canon of art music, and something that I think in its own gentle and occasionally heaven-storming way subverts some ideas about what the concert pianist may or might not do.
Wow. So how did you sort of discover that you're able, to do spoken word while playing the piano, like you've demonstrated for us?
It's a work in progress. I'm lucky that I've been helped by a lot of my friends and colleagues in the drama department at Juilliard. I will say that after I had progressed through the initial phase of simply being able to have both going at the same time, the main challenge was to be listening in two different ways at the same time. And then it became a kind of polyphonic discipline, which, funnily enough, tied itself back into what playing the piano often entails anyways, in a Bach piece or in transcription that I have here, being able to evoke not only the intention of different voices, but also their responsiveness, their way of listening to each other.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Jeffrey.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So that now brings us to finalist number 6, Zitong Wang, 26-year-old Chinese pianist. She was born in Inner Mongolia in China, and she entered the Curtis Institute of Music at age just 13. She's currently pursuing graduate studies at the New England Conservatory in Boston. And I'll just alert you, there is a program change here. Hong Yan, a traditional Mongolian folk song transcribed by Yitong herself, will replace the Chopin Etude, which is in the program there. So welcome to the stage, Zitong Wang.
People often say, time heals all wounds. But sometimes, it's music that truly carries us through. When my grandfather passed, the silence left behind was overwhelming. Words felt empty, but at the piano, I found something words couldn't offer, a way to feel to process, to begin healing. In those quiet hours, music became my companion. It held space for my grief, but also lit a path forward. It didn't ask for explanations. It just stayed, quietly, patiently, until I was ready to breathe again. This performance is part of that journey. It's about memory, healing, and rediscovery. Through music, I found light again, and I invite you to share that light with me.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for sharing that very intimate, special moment with me. I'm Zitong, and I'm very happy to be here. For tonight's program, I would like to take you all on a journey across cultures and across time. Our journey first starts with something from my hometown. It's called Hong Yan, which is a Mongolian traditional folk song that I grew up listening to, and it heavily shaped my childhood. It has a simple melody, but it's deeply evocative and illustrating the wild geese flying south. You can hear the distant grassland, and you can feel the quiet ache for home. I didn't actually plan to transcribe it. The song had lived with me for so many years, and when I sat down at the piano, it just felt so natural, and it kind of just wrote itself because I felt something less of creating it, but more of remembering it. And from there, we take a dramatic turn to Liszt's Figaro Fantasy, arranged by Busoni. This piece is wild, chaotic, virtuosic, and very dramatic. It really takes the roots from Mozart's operatic brilliance. And but behind all the flair of the Liszt, I think what's important is that bringing something familiar and reshaping it to our own is really just the key of finding your own voices in it. And though you might think these two works are worlds apart from each other, but they actually are driven both by memory and by transformation. And with this program, I want to bring that, even doesn't matter how far the journey leads us, there's always a part of home that always stays with us. So I hope you enjoyed this program.
four pianists in the final this year. What makes you stand out as a pianist?
That I'm a girl?
It-
Hello?
Yep.
I think, I mean, I sort of know the other three finalists, not personally, but I know they're playing, and I really respect everybody, and I think it's a hard competition. But I really try to bring something personal from my background and from my program. I think I played my heart out, and I think that's all it is, what it's about.
Absolutely. So you're 26 now. What would you say has been the most memorable performance of your career so far, and why?
I think this last one was pretty memorable because halfway through I was sweating so much that my foundation was in my eyes and I couldn't see the keys. That was an experience. And last month I performed Prokofiev's Second Concerto, and you might hear a little bit the cadenza. I put in a little arrangement in my folk song piece. That was something nerve-wracking, and that was really fun this month.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to finalist number 7. 28-year-old Italian clarinetist Andrea Caputo. Italian-born, Andrea is currently based in Los Angeles, and he's pursuing his artist diploma from the Colburn School, where he is also a teaching assistant there. Andrea.
I have a question for you. Would any of you go to a formal event and just undress in front of an audience of complete strangers? No one, right? Well, that's pretty much what I do every time I step on a stage. I open myself up completely. Being vulnerable. I think that's the only way to communicate something real, something honest. There is something incredibly transformative about music. It breaks down walls. It steals our breath. There is joy and agony and rage, oftentimes in the same piece of music. And here's the thing. If I need to describe who I am, or what I like to eat, or my favorite color, so you get to know me, I'm not really fulfilling my idea of being a musician. I'll try a different way. Classical music is a human experience. It's for everyone. And if you've ever felt something so deeply, then this music is already yours. Mi chiamo Andrea e suono il clarinetto. Happy listening. My name is Andrea Caputo. I come from Italy. And I'm gonna have to do this while I work. I'm accompanied tonight by Misuzu Tanaka, to whom I'm very grateful to, since we met just 2 days ago. And what you just listened to was a love letter in music, from Robert to Clara Schumann, a Christmas present written in a later moment of his life when his mental health was rapidly deteriorating. And for that reason, I love to think this was Schumann's way of impressing his love for Clara music forever. Next on the program, you're going to listen to a piece composed by the brilliant British composer Anna Klein, titled Snake and Ladder. Yes, exactly like the board game, or maybe you may know here as Shoots and Ladder. And the title she chose is pretty self-explanatory, and you will understand why immediately as soon as I start playing. Next, on our journey of getting to know each other, I would like to propose something virtuosic, something playful, but also operatic and dramatic. The Rondeau from Carl Maria von Weber, Gran Duo Concertante. And I will end with something that is closer to my roots, an Italian, jazzy, little improvised piece by Gaspare Tirincanti called Clarinetologia, or Clarinetology. Please enjoy. The beauty of the live performance, it's not turning on. Is this, should be on? Anna Klein, Snake and Ladder. Excuse us for the small technical difficulty. Let's cut it off. Better not to play Weber with this.
There you go. Wondered where that went. Excellent. So, with just 15 minutes, tonight to showcase your diversity and your range, how did you go about programming for this competition?
I wanted to, showcase my personality. And since I'm Italian, I'll have to admit my personality is a little bit here and there. So I started with something romantic, then my mind went to something contemporary, very contemporary, and then something classical, operatic, and then something jazz. Also to showcase, my idea was to showcase the possibility of the clarinet, because many people are, fixate on the idea that the clarinet is an orchestra instrument, but a clarinet can be also a beautiful chamber music instrument and a solo instrument, especially because of the vastity of the repertoire that we got and all the big composers wrote for us. So yeah, that's the mindset I came tonight here with.
Wonderful. And so, you included this piece here with the electronics. Is this something that you like to feature in your programming?
I always love to explore things that are new, but I like to, curating a program is, I think, part of the performance itself. And if you curate a program that is interesting and engaging and culturally relevant for the people, then they can, especially as a wind instrumentalist, they can breathe with you, they can live the music with you, and that's for me stepping it up a notch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Round of applause. So that now takes us to our 8th and final finalist this evening, the Erinys String Quartet. So a very multicultural group here, but they met at the Sibelius Academy in Finland in 2018. And they have roots in Estonia, Lithuania, Greece, the United States, and Finland. And the current string quartet in residence at the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia. So included on their program this evening is a world premiere Flamme, Opus 22 number 1, by a friend of theirs and contemporary French composer Corentin Apparali.
Hi, we're the Erinys Quartet. I am Maria and I'm Finnish-Lithuanian.
I'm Josep, I'm Estonian. I'm Sterios and I'm from Greece.
And I'm Lizzie and I'm from New York.
We started the quartet in 2018 at the Sibelius Academy and quickly became friends through playing together. Fast forward to 2023, when we moved to Philadelphia to be the string quartet in residence at the Curtis Institute of Music.
As a modern-day quartet, we love exploring a wide range of repertoire. We have been particularly interested and excited to work with composers directly, which we have found to be a very exciting and rewarding aspect of our career.
While touring, we've gotten to visit a lot of classrooms throughout the US and connect with students of all ages. Fostering an appreciation of music and supporting the next generation of artists is one of our strongest values.
At the core, the most important thing for us is to be on stage sharing our music. There's nothing quite like the flow of performance and the thrill of experiencing the connection with an audience.
See you at the concert!
In 1945, World War II had just ended, and Europe was still feeling the aftershocks. Benjamin Britten wrote his second string quartet shortly after the war had finished. It is full of beauty, hope, and peace, as well as shadows of the horror that ensued. We hope you enjoy this weird and wonderful movement.
Is it the dark? Is it maybe spiders? Is it death? Flamma, Primal Fear for String Quartet, is a piece that explores the fear of the outside, the thought that our own environment might turn against us. We commissioned this piece from a French composer and a dear friend and supporter of the quartet, Corentin Apparai, and we are very proud to present the world premiere for you tonight on this wonderful stage. It is an exciting and very dramatic piece, and we hope that you enjoy.
players. I'm starting to lose my way a little. Okie dokie. So, tell us about this new work and your association with the composer. And most importantly, tell us how to pronounce his name. I was getting some French lessons backstage from a native Greek speaker, Lithuanian, a Finn, and an American. So please, the pronunciation on his name and your association with him.
Yeah, so Corentin was actually one of our earliest mentors with the quartet. We would, before we had a full-time quartet teacher, we would send him videos early on of our playing, and he would send back detailed, like many pages long, written lessons basically on what we would send him. He used to play in the Quatuor Arad, this French quartet. So, yeah, and we've developed this relationship with him over the years. We've traveled to Paris to play for him. We actually met him last month in New York when he was visiting here to play this piece for him. So,
wonderful.
Corentin à Paris.
Excellent. So what's the key to maintaining a good relationship within your quartet, you know, when you're touring so much and on the road as much as you are? What's the keys to it?
Well, it's not always very easy. But I think the key is to be able, when touring, to be in each other's presence and just be in silence and to just let each other have the space they need. And having lived for quite many years in Finland, and I don't know if you're familiar with Finnish people, but they love to stay silent. So we've learned that from there. And of course, you know, things get difficult, you know, when you're struggling and you really want to do something, and we have opposing ideas and stuff, and it's something that we're constantly working on, but just trying to be understanding of each other and patient, and just always, when there's some problem arises, to always speak about it. We speak actually quite a lot about things that happened. Maybe someone said something that hurt someone. We always try to speak and resolve it afterwards, so we don't leave things sort of hanging unresolved.
Excellent advice. Wonderful. Thank you. The Erinys Quartet. Thank you. So that closes our final performance for tonight. So thank you very much to the audience here at the Manhattan School and to our online audience. We'll now just take a 10-minute break, and we'll start the panel discussion at 8:15 while our jury deliberates. And 9 p.m. we'll have the winner's announcement, followed by a reception upstairs. So thank you very much, and see you back shortly. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to the 2025 Concert Artists Guild Lewis and Susan Meisel competition. So it's I've got all of the finalists here on stage with me, and it's you know, you can let your hair down a little bit now. The jury have all headed out to do their adjudication, so you know, you don't have to keep it as PC as you have so far. So we're going to learn a little more about you guys. So we have some questions here, as well as during the 2 sessions, the audience members out there via a Q code on the front of their programs have been submitting questions to you guys as well. So yeah, watch out for these ones. Okay, so anyone who wants to take this question, you're welcome to. How do you balance your artistic goals with the realities of making a living as a performer? Someone from this side? Maybe the chemistry major can go.
That's a great question that I think all of us have to confront inevitably. I wish there were an easy answer to this. I mean, I think it's a privilege to be able to make a living from performance. I think even though it's a difficult life, it really is, it's a very lucky life, because so it's hard to get connections and get concerts and all of that. So yeah, it's, you know, it's just a part of the career that we kind of embrace and are prepared for. I think a lot of us also teach and have additional gigs. I know, yeah, a lot of pianists teach at various schools in New York City. So I think it's just a balance, and I think we also kind of go through several stages in our careers where maybe now we are performing more and maybe not making quite as much, and then another few months is a period where you teach more. So it's really just a balance. But I guess the ideal goal is, of course, just performance, because that's the most fun.
Excellent. Anyone over here want to add anything to there? So how you're balancing your artistic goals with the reality of making a living as a performer?
Another thing, because this is all so true and relatable, we've also, in our experience, had to get really good at kind of learning the business side of things, maybe more than we'd like to. We, as a quartet, we're lucky that we get to divide this up between the four of us, but we have to assign really specific tasks like related to the concerts that we're going to that have nothing to do with the music we're playing. So yeah, it's nice to have friends.
Wonderful, thank you. So anyone want to jump in and take this one? What steps have you taken to stand out in a saturated industry? Someone down here? What steps you've taken to, stand out? It's a tough gig.
Yeah, I think especially us as a saxophone quartet, trying to kind of make our mark in the classical music industry. It's not the easiest task, but I think just knowing that we have the chance to write our own history. When you show up to a saxophone quartet concert, you might not know what to expect, right? Whereas maybe if you show up to a string quartet concert or a piano trio concert, you're kind of more familiar with what's going to be played. So I think one of the ways we do that is through our programming, and we try to always stay both relevant to contemporary issues and also always being both accessible and innovative in the works that we program, the living composers that we work with, the pieces that we choose to, the classic, beautiful, historic pieces that we choose to champion and adapt to our quartet. So I think it's mostly in the programming for us.
Wonderful. How about same question for one of the pianists here? Because, obviously 4 of the 7 finalists were solo pianists. So, same question, what steps, today and in general, have you taken to stand out in what is a saturated industry? So.
That's a very difficult question, and it makes me think of a quote from Nadia Boulanger, the incredibly influential teacher. And she said, in the past, artists only sought to imitate the masters. Nowadays, everyone seeks to be individual. However, and this is the hard part of the quote that she says, one is not individual by choice. And I think that's something that to be honest, it's actually both comforting and terrifying. It means that for all of our efforts to distinguish ourselves, to express ourselves, in the end, I think you can't help but be who you are. And at the same time, you're looking after your own destiny in a way. So I think, that's a bit of my sort of hands-off answer to the question, which is that the answers reveal themselves in a certain way.
I think you're okay. You stand out. Okay, question. So maybe one of the ensembles would like to take this one. What does building a sustainable career in music look like for you? So maybe one from the Erinys.
Well, I think it is important to sort of not only focus on performing. There are other things that should diversify. For example, teaching is a very important aspect of the job, and not only because it's just so rewarding to teach, but I'm kind of losing my words here now. I don't speak so often in these kind of settings. But so maybe Lizzie, you want to help me out because I have completely failed this.
Your question was, what does building a sustainable career in music
Sure.
look like to you?
To build on what Stereos was starting to say, we, especially in the past year, have realized like the value. We are as new, but like kind of we're developing these like school projects and these projects to go out into the community and really like meet people where they're at and engage audiences in that way, like aside from just inviting them to a concert or even just like playing a concert. So we actually, this piece that we premiered tonight, we commissioned it for a school project that we could take to children and encourage them to write stories and to think about storytelling through music. So this is one example of like how we would like to go out into the community and do this kind of thing. And also just teaching and passing on the things that we've learned from our amazing mentors. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Question now for Kayden. I've been told that you have used a pair of lucky socks during your performances.
That is true.
Did your lucky socks make an appearance today? And do any of the other finalists have performance rituals? So let's start with your lucky socks. Have we got them on?
Unfortunately, no, not today, not today. They are currently out of commission and in repair since they are quite small. Yeah. But hopefully they can make an appearance in any future performances I might give.
Have you had them a while, and do you want to describe them for us if you don't have them to show?
Sure. So, I mean, they're black, right? Because we got to keep like the black aesthetic. And there's music notes here and there. You know, there's yellow, red. It's low key, but I like them. I like them.
Excellent. Anyone else here have a performance ritual that they must carry into on the stage with them?
Maybe less of a ritual, but I have a good luck charm. It's in my pocket right now. It's a poker chip, and I put this in my pocket every time I perform. And I actually got it when I was in like 7th grade or 8th grade, after a school assembly that was entitled "All In," and it was the speaker talking about being all into whatever you like to do or whatever you do in your schooling or in your extracurriculars. And I put it in my saxophone case in 7th grade, and now I put it in my pocket every time I perform. So all in for music.
I'm not sure how responsible that is to give a 12-year-old a poker chip.
Yeah.
But okay. Anyone else have any lucky charms or rituals before performances or superstition? Anthony?
I guess for me, I always put my score on the page where I usually have memory slips. I keep it bright and open backstage, and I always have my grandfather's photo on my phone, kind of looking at me, something like that.
The color red is a good luck color, and I see a lot of people have little red things. I have a red handkerchief, which I usually wipe the keys down, although today we were pressed on time because it was 15 minutes, so I didn't have time to wipe the keys. But I still keep it with me, and I know a lot of other pianists do. I think Martha Argerich talks about this a lot. She likes to wear red or have a red handkerchief to absorb any bad energy that could happen.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have a couple of questions here from audience members, so be ready for these ones. This one is from Yi, and it's for Zitong. Could you kindly sing the Mongolian folk song?
I don't remember word by word the lyrics, but it goes something like Hong Yan xiang nan fei, fei dao na bian zong, something like that.
Wonderful. Thank you. So a question now from Ed Monaco out here in the audience. Do any of you ever improvise? Any improvisers on stage? Andrea is an improviser.
I don't define myself a jazz player or improviser. My biggest jazz achievement is to shake hands with Wynton Marsalis. So, but I like in my practice routine to just take a jazz standard and keep things fresh. I don't like always reading from a made out sheet of music. I like to put my own ideas. Of course, I don't do that in the classical pieces. That's why tonight I thought to include something that allowed me to to let this part of my personality a little bit shine on stage. I don't know if I managed to do that, but yeah, I do like to improvise, and I love doing that from time to time.
Wonderful. What about our saxophonist down here? Any improvisers?
Not so much in a like jazz sense. I recently worked on a piece for my friend's senior recital. We recorded some kind of just like improvised sounds and different noises that the saxophone can make, and they set it to a track with a bunch of other instruments, and they wrote a piece to it, and we performed that in his recital. In high school, I did a little bit of jazz band and like combos and stuff, but I was never the best improviser. I did play in my high school's halftime show a little solo on "Isn't She Lovely" by Stevie Wonder, but yeah.
Excellent. Question from Augusta in the audience. So maybe one of the, we'll see. Anyone who wants to grab this question, jump in. If you are chosen as a winner, how would you begin to define your role within the community as a performing musician, and why?
Is this gaming at me?
So if you're chosen as a winner, how would you begin to define your role within the community as a performing musician?
I mean, I hope it's okay if I answer the question in the same way, whether or not I am chosen as a winner. Humble as I am before the opportunity that is presented to all of us. But at the same time, I think the answer is the same, like I said. I think of, increasingly I'm thinking of myself not only as my task, not only as making music, but as creating a musical experience. And it's a small, but for me quite important distinction in the sense that everything that goes into what kind of experience we have at a concert, besides the playing itself, should be something that I get excited about, whether that's the context from which we hear the music on every program, through the curation of the program, through what inner spoken materials provide that context, whether that's the kind of space, coordination between the content and the space, really thinking in terms of a space, which is something that I've gotten a different perspective on working with people in the theater world. Because I really think, and just to conclude, my role is to encourage in our communities, in society writ large, a different kind of listening that I think musicians have to offer, a kind of listening which is from the whole body, not just listening superficially, but listening deeply to the meaning and the intent behind notes or words.
Thank you. Question here for Anthony. You studied chemical engineering and published scientific papers. How do you think that background shapes how you approach your musical career today?
That's a great question. A slight anecdote, my teacher in masters would always say in a negative way, "Oh, you're sounding like an engineer right now. You're planning exactly what you're going to do on the repeat, and you're planning a rubato here, a crescendo here." So I think I've actually worked a lot on distancing myself from that upbringing and embracing spontaneity and freedom and all these scary unknowns that just are inherent in the arts. But I have realized recently the one thing that has very much translated is doing well under pressure. I very much enjoy deadlines. I enjoy having, a lot to do in a little bit of time. I like being busy. So I guess the Stockholm syndrome from engineering has carried over.
Excellent. Question here for Zitong. You studied the harpsichord as a secondary instrument when you were at the Curtis Institute. How has that shaped the way you approach the piano now?
That's a very interesting question. I grew my love for Bach since at a very early age, and when I was studying in China, I intentionally found a teacher who studied with Rosalind Turek, and I went to study only Bach. We started with inventions, like the very simple stuff, and he wouldn't let me even touch the prelude and fugues. And then later on at Curtis, I was the first pianist to request for that as a second major, and it got pretty serious. Actually, my harpsichord teacher wanted me to be a harpsichordist, and he was complaining that I don't practice enough. And the reason why I don't do it enough now, it's because it requires a different kind of technique, and then since I do have perfect pitch, the pitch adjustment was really hard for me. And but in a way, it really shaped how I understand Baroque music, how they stylistically, how they would improvise on basso continuo and all things like that. Just very, it's been a comfort zone. And now I'm actually taking organ at NEC, so maybe you'll see me in the church someday.
Excellent. Question for the Erinys Quartet. As an ensemble, you've flown across the Atlantic 27 times together, and between the four of you, you speak 9 languages. What's it like being a truly international quartet?
Well, let's hope this goes better than the last one. But yeah, I mean, it's just really fun because we are all from quite different backgrounds. Maybe Maria and Josep have a little bit more of a shared heritage, being from the Baltic countries. But it's just really fun because you always discover something new about each other through the music that you play. Maybe we will play a piece and Maria will be reminded of some Lithuanian song or something like that. Or we play something that's a little bit more, it has more folk or fiddle elements, and then Lizzie, as the American of the quartet, will know something. We'll have some input towards that because from her experience. And it can be a little bit chaotic sometimes, and it can be hard sometimes to communicate because we all carry a different cultural background, and maybe if I say something in one way that in Greece would be completely acceptable, and if I said it on this panel, maybe I would be banned from entering this hall, this kind of stuff. So it can be sometimes frustrating, but overall it's just a lot of fun.
Excellent. And question for Maria, because we haven't heard from Maria yet.
Hello.
What inspired you, Maria, to pursue music as a career, not just a passion?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, that's what my mom told me, that when I was just a baby, the only sound that would make me stop crying was violin. So when I was 2 or 3, I asked my parents to get me a violin for Christmas, and I got one out of a shoebox. That was the best toy I had. And I also grew up with a cousin who is also now a violist in a quartet. So yeah, I think I just grew up in a very musical environment, and that has always been the best way I could express myself, and then the most natural way. Yeah.
Excellent. And for the Cerus Quartet, where do you see yourselves in 5 years, musically and professionally?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of discussions this year specifically about kind of our 1-year plan, our 5-year plan, our 10-year plan. And this year specifically because we're about to, get out of the university environment. We're all, finishing our grad degrees in some way. And so I think ideally in 5 years, we'll obviously still be playing together. We'll hopefully be doing the things that we're setting the groundwork for right now, which is outreach and touring and, coming to places like here, functioning as a nonprofit, which is our, big 5-year goal. So I think the things that we're laying the groundwork for right now are ideally what we'll be doing in 5 years.
Excellent. Question for Kayden. What does success in music mean to you personally?
Okay, so success in music for me personally, I guess I would have to say that what it means is to enjoy every single moment that I have playing the piano. Because I guess, of course there's performances where you do well. And, performances that don't go so well. But I think what really makes it at the end of the day is, whether it's something that I've felt and whether I've been able to kind of transmit that as kind of this universal language. So, yeah.
Thank you. Question for Andrea. How are you navigating the transition from student to professional musician?
I actually have a fun story. During the pandemic, I had just finished my master's in Salzburg, and I was lucky enough to get a job both in orchestra and as a conservatory professor in Italy. And I felt like getting a job at the moment was dragging me back and not letting me explore myself fully. So I went to a masterclass in Spain where I met my current mentor, Yehuda Gilad, with whom I study currently in Los Angeles, finishing up my artist diploma. And after the first lesson, I gave notice, I quit my job, and I came here to the States. So I don't think I'm the right person to ask that question to, but if I have to say, transitioning to a job, I never thought of music as a job. Of course, we have to make a living, but if we are lucky enough to do something we love every day, we are not going to be working a single day in our lives. Of course, that's very, that's easy to say, could sound cliche, but I want to live my life that way, and I want to share my joy of being on stage with everyone in the audience.
Wonderful. So let's start with Anthony. We'll pass the microphone all the way down with the same question. If you didn't study music, what would you do professionally? Your one's probably an easy one.
I think I would do something slightly more creative with my engineering degree. I think I would write code. I think it's very creative. I think there's a lot that one can do with that. But in an ideal world, if it didn't rely on the skills that I currently have, I would definitely want something in the arts, because that's where I see myself no matter what for the rest of my life. I love film, so maybe something with film, maybe something with soundtracks.
So same question, passing it down. If you didn't study music, what would you do professionally?
I would want to be a surgeon. Well, it's not only that, because when you get older, you realize your family members are getting sick, and then sometimes you feel this kind of helpless and hopeless, and then you kind of wish that you had more knowledge into it and you have more ways to help. But also that I'm kind of creepy that way, that I love watching surgery videos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrea?
I share the same passion as Anthony does. I love film. Maybe something. I also share part of what you said, because fun fact, since I was 3 years old, I was always telling my mom, when I grow up, I want to be a surgeon. I want to be like a heart surgeon or brain surgeon. But I found myself saved by music, because I'm such an empathetic person, and all the pain around me and around us affects me personally a lot. And I don't think I could have personally sustained that type of life. And that's why I'm very grateful to do what I do. But yeah, something between what you two just said.
Derek?
I would be a baseball commentator.
Okay.
I would look for the key to immortality. I feel like that would be a very large, and I probably wouldn't accomplish it, but I would like to try.
Okay. Excellent. Good ambition.
I really love visual arts. I almost went to art school out of high school, and I also really love organizing. So I think I could be a really good like gallery curator.
Well, I think something to do with artistic thing, and I really enjoy actually architecture, and I have an eye for it somehow. So I think that would be the thing, but I don't know enough math and engineering for that, so maybe it would be hard, I think.
Yeah, so funnily enough, the first university I ever enrolled in back in Greece was for mathematics, and that was an absolutely terrible decision. I was horrible at it. Somehow through the Greek school system, that's where I ended up. So definitely not that. The quartet is always calling me that I'm the lawyer of the quartet because I like to argue my points to death. So probably that should be what my alternate profession.
I think I would be either fashion historian or interior designer, a very maximalist one.
I kind of share a similar passion for film, specifically soundtracks and scoring. So maybe something in that, and maybe if not music related, going into game design or something along those lines.
I think maybe different from what people have been saying. I think I would work in some sort of animal rescue or things like that. My roommate and I have been fostering cats for the past 2 years. And each cat we get, I want to keep, but we can't because, but yeah, I think that would be very fulfilling for me.
For me, I originally started university doing a dual major in biomedical sciences on a pre-med track and saxophone. And for my entire life, my grandpa's been my hero, and he's a neurosurgeon. Grew up very poor in Mexico and kind of like fought his way through and was able to get a scholarship to go to a residency at the Mayo Clinic. And like he was he's always been a source of like extreme inspiration for me in terms of working hard at something. And for as long as I can remember, I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And then during the pandemic, I like really chose to commit to music because I found like kind of like Andrea, it's like I'm very much an empathetic person. And you know, there was so much disconnect, and there still is, and so much clashing of our humanity, right? And through music, I found that human connection and participating in something way larger than myself, especially through my chamber group, like was way more fulfilling.
Excellent. So reverse order this time, but you've kind of killed this question for me or answered it already. Who is each of your biggest non-musical inspiration?
My grandpa.
Non-musical. I think I would say my sister.
What? Why is that?
I you know, she's my older sister. She's my only sister, and I look up to her so much. And she's very smart and she has a way about her that I want to be when I grow up.
I think I'd have to say too, both of my parents. They've both been very supportive throughout my entire life, and especially pursuing a career like music. Both me and my sister actually majored in music in college. She ended up going into a different field, but I know I've seen how hard they work to support both of us and make sure that we can live our lives the way that we want to. And I just want to be that kind of person and that kind of parent in the future.
I would say my mother and my grandmother. None of them are musicians, but since I was a little girl, there was so much support and love from them, and I'm just very thankful for them. And I wish that I can be at least half a woman that they both are.
Yeah, that's a difficult question for me. I think in the last years, and funnily enough, it has nothing to do with any. I was thinking maybe I should give some artistic answer or something, but in fact, I think I've been very, very inspired by the Greek basketball star Giannis Antetokounmpo, because he has achieved so much through sheer work ethic, and it is something I also aspire to do.
I think for me it would be my brother, I think, because we have like little cottage in countryside in Estonia, and he's mostly managing that. And I feel like he's the person who, when he thinks something, he just does it. So it's very nice to see.
I think the Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. He plays the game with such like abandon and joy, and is really creative and takes risks. So yeah, I've really, especially this season, looked up to Josh Allen a lot.
My father, for sure, and he's. Thank you for being in the audience to support me.
Round of applause for Dad today. Yeah.
I don't think I could ever surpass what my dad has been able to accomplish. I mean, he's come from Costa Rica, very disadvantaged environment, and he's turned that into his advantage and become one of the best painters I know. So thank you for supporting me.
I already made a sports reference, so I think I'll stick with the personal tribute theme. I've been thinking of both of my parents who in the 80s moved from China to this neighborhood, actually. And they've always put my life and my desires over even their own. And that's, of course, the kind of debt that I could never repay. I can only live in awe and gratitude for that.
I'm gonna steal your answer as well as you stole mine, but my biggest non-musical hero is my grandpa. He came from nothing, and he told me stories about his house not even having electricity and plumbing, and then he became a firefighter. And maybe some of you are aware, the floodings and the earthquakes in Italy during the 80s, and he navigated through all of them. He has not a single working joint in his body anymore. And he bought me my first clarinet, and then my second clarinet, and then my third clarinet. And he always pushed me to just chase your dreams, just never stop. And he never complained about, his pains, and I find that stoicism extremely admirable.
Oh, it's a very difficult question for me because I grew up in a family with full of musicians, starting with my grandparents, and all my friends are musicians. So, well, my childhood hero was Michael Jackson, but he's still a musical figure, so I think that's that.
I was trying to come up with something clever or something poetic, but I think it's just going to be my parents. I think there's really no other answer, and I think the fact that so many of us said our family just shows that it's hard to be a musician, and it's hard to choose this career path, and we couldn't do it without support from our loved ones. So yeah, my parents have supported me from day one, and they've always said, don't even question it. Everything will be fine. You'll work it out. So I'm very grateful to them.
Let's have a clap for all the parents, I think. Okay, so anyone who wants to jump in on this, jump in. Your favorite past or post-reception treat? What do you guys like to eat after you come off a big performance? Yeah, anyone go for it.
Well, I'm a big foodie. I think knowing other cultures, you can do that through food a lot. And I have a sweet tooth, unfortunately. So give me a muffin or something sweet, like I don't know, red velvet. You'll make me happy. Need some sugar after performing.
Anyone else? What do you like to dive into after your performances?
Strawberries.
Okay.
Well, I'd love to be able to dive into some Greek seafood, but unfortunately, we are not in Greece. But yeah.
Okay. Do we have any teachers on the panel here? I know Andres is a teacher. Any other teachers on the panel? Okay, excellent. So it's for those who have taught lessons or classes. What qualities do you try to instill in your students?
I think that's an easy one for me. I have a music education degree that I just finished, so I was in the classroom student teaching this fall with high schoolers, and I was, interacting with high schoolers every day, and looking the way that I do, I could pass as a high schooler. I got kind of mistaken by teachers in the school as a 17 or 18-year-old. But I think, going back to the question, I think it's over or above any musical thing to instill in a kid or a student being a good person. I think being a good person can shine and does shine through your musicality. So I think, yes, we practice our scales and we practice our etudes and we play with good tone and we, sit up straight and play with breast support. But I think being a good person is the most important thing.
Wonderful. What about you, Andrea? You're teaching at the Colburn School, are you not?
Yes, I am teaching assistant to my professor there, and I also was a conservatory professor. And I found myself most of the time learning more from the students every single day than me teaching them. I think instill is a word I don't prefer. I would like to say nurture. The most important thing is to nurture one's personality. Let his personality shine through. And as she said, being a good person comes above everything else. And I think today's world is in dire need of kindness. And we can share that through music and heal together.
Wonderful, thank you. How are we doing for time over there? It is 9 o'clock. Have the jury come to their decision as yet, or keep going? Okay, I'll vamp a little, going for it. All right, question for the Cerus Quartet. You mentioned in your bio that your professor, Dr. Tim McAllister, said you have a chance to write your own story as a saxophone quartet. What's your story so far? So maybe one can answer the story so far, and where do you want it to go?
I can start with the story so far. I think at our core we're, 4 best friends who all came to the same university from all different corners of this country. So we have California and New Jersey and Texas that have a passion for music and for saxophone, but also for writing this story and for pushing the saxophone forward at the forefront of the classical music world. Someone want to take on where we're going?
Yeah, I think something specific to the saxophone quartet medium is just giving it a stronger place in the 21st century classical music scene and just music in general. We've seen a lot of younger groups. Recently at the Fish-Off competition, there's a lot of young saxophone quartets out there playing all these really hard pieces and just building their brand at an early age and putting the foot in the door to really build up the public perception of the saxophone quartet. And that's just something that we really strive to do with our programming and just our brand as a group.
Perfect, wonderful. Question for Andrea. You described yourself as a citizen of the world by training. Can you explain what this means and how traveling and studying around the world has influenced you?
I think the biggest thing that I can take away from my musical education is how lucky I was to be able to meet with so many different cultures. I am convinced that if every single one of us takes the time to travel and see how other people live, and not with the mindset to try to change that, but try to understand each other, the world would be a better place. That's why I try to, through my education, to meet as many cultures and as many people as I could in all the hemispheres, because that's how you enrich yourself and how you understand. And we are all the same, and that's the most important thing that I can take away from my education.
Wonderful, thank you. If I had a headset, they'd be telling me that the jury are ready with their decision. So thank you to all the panelists for their wonderful performance. All the finalists, congratulations to all of them for their performances today and this evening, and for the panel tonight. And good luck to all of you. I'm sure you all have fantastic careers ahead of you. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being so patient. It was a very lively and difficult conversation and discussing these amazing performances that we heard tonight and this afternoon. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Tanya Bannister. I'm the president of CAG, and I would love to, again, have my illustrious jury behind me introduced again. We have the amazing Michelle Kahn, who's here and ready to give birth, and still, and is about to drive back to Philadelphia tonight, and hopefully we don't cause any medical emergencies. We've got David Frost, the wonderful recording producer, Grammy-nominated, multiple million times and winning. Sorry, you've won so many times I can't even count. Adrienne Fuchs from Carnegie Hall, Jeremy Ney from the Frick Collection, Erin Lunsford Norton from the New Jersey Symphony, Orly Shaham, the internationally renowned pianist, Alistair Tate, my colleague from the Young Classical Artists Trust in London, and of course, Tim Ma, who I work with at Concert Artists Guild, who runs our management department and is the COO. I would love to thank all of you here tonight, both in this room and also on the live stream, who have supported not only the organization, but the incredible musicians to make these wonderful performances that you've heard. I know how difficult it is to put yourself out there and to bring yourself to a point of, making a career and wanting a partner in creating momentum. The Manhattan School has been a wonderful partner also today. I'd love to thank their team. The CAG volunteers, if you could stand, everyone who's in the room who volunteered today and who made this event happen. Our board, of course, our staff, and our volunteer musicians. And many of our roster are here tonight to support all of you, which is wonderful. And of course to Lou and Susan Meisel, who made this competition happening by funding it. I'd like to thank I'm excited to announce a new partnership that we have with the Bohemians. The Bohemians is a wonderful organization that has been around since what year, Dustin? 1907. The Bohemians Artist Residency and Robert A. Levinson and Patricia S. Levinson Arts Achievement Award, administered by the New York Community Trust, is going to help an artist with career assets in the amount of $50,000, which is pretty extraordinary. So I'd like to thank my good friend and colleague, Dustin Gledhill, for making that happen and for believing in CAG and the CAG artists to really support what is critical in creating a career, which is producing and having amazing career portfolio, whether it's photos or videos, any number of things that are needed to create a successful toolkit. We also have a partnership with Young Classical Artists Trust in London, and I would like to announce that we have one winner from this year, which I'd like to show on video. His name is Samrat Majunda, and he is a beautiful English Indian classical guitarist, and I'd love to introduce you to him in the form of a video, if everyone can see.
everyone. It's been a great pleasure to have played at the YCAT finals auditions today here at Wigmore Hall, and I'm deeply honoured to now be a joint YCAT and Concert Artists Guild artist for the coming seasons. I'm very excited to experience American audiences and see venues there and share with you the beautiful music that is presentable on this wonderful instrument, the classical guitar. See you soon.
So each and every one of you played so beautifully today, and I would like you all to know that each of you deserve to have support and could easily be on the CAG roster. For tonight, we only have one winner. And I'd like you to come on stage when I call your name, and you will be getting the Bohemians $50,000 award and the CAG Management Award, and that goes to the Cerus Quartet. So you notice there's one missing out of the Cerus Quartet, and I think he's playing part of the University of Michigan Orchestra concert in Carnegie Hall. So luckily this was timed very well with the finals. I'd like to congratulate all of you, and we're here as support anytime, and would love to celebrate with all of you in a reception upstairs at the Ram, what's it called? The Ram Hall. So what you do is you go as if you're exiting the building, and you just go past the security desk and go up the stairs and through that lobby, and hopefully Luke and Kelsey will help you to the Ram Hall upstairs, because it's a little tricky to find. But I really appreciate all of you playing today and for all the support that you've given, and congratulations to the Cerus Quartet.